Will San Francisco continue to dominate in the NFC, or will the Commanders find a way to get back on track to compete for the wild card?
Yeah, I got the 49ers in this one. And to be quite honest with you, I think it's going to be a rout. I think there's a very good chance that the 49ers defense could potentially hold this Commanders offense to 10 or 15 points. I'm not talking about holding them to the low 20s. I'm talking about low to mid teens just because of how fierce and dangerous this 49ers defense is. I mean, when it comes to the last couple games that Brock Purdy has started in, this 49ers defense is basically holding opposing teams to essentially teen digit performances offensively. And look, when it comes to the 49ers, they've gone through a lot this year. The injury bug has not been kind to them. Um, Debo Samuel is still out a couple weeks. They've lost both of their starting quarterbacks in Trey Lance and Jimmy G. And yet, despite that, they just continue to hum right along. And since Brock Purdy has gotten the start, and even when he filled in for relief for Jimmy G a couple weeks back, the 49ers offense hasn't really missed a beat. And I will look back to last week against Seattle. They were a little bit more methodical. They weren't putting up as much points compared to the first couple of weeks that Brock was getting the start. But nonetheless, Brock didn't turn the ball over. And he featured George Kittle extremely heavily in the offense last week. He had 2 touchdowns in that game. And I think if the Commanders aren't careful, there's a very good chance that Kittle could have a very similar type of performance in this game. And I wouldn't be surprised if Christian McCaffrey gets a little bit more involved, Brandon Ayuk gets involved. Like this 49ers offense, I understand that they're still missing pieces, but yet for some odd reason, they're just still able to execute at a high level. And I think it's just simply because they win the battle at the line of scrimmage week in and week out. And if they're able to do that and give Brock Purdy time to be able to make decisions, look at his reads available to him, I mean, that's putting your quarterback in a situation to win. And by and large, they've been able to do that for the first couple of weeks since Brock Purdy's gotten the start. And when it comes to the 49ers, they've been one of the hottest teams in the league right now. I think they're a real dark horse contender to be in the Super Bowl this year to represent the NFC. And that's despite the fact that they have a third string quarterback in at the helm right now. And when it comes to the Commanders, I just don't have a lot of faith in them right now offensively. They went up against a really tough defense against the Giants last week and only scored 12 points, and they were playing at home. Now they're in a situation where they have to go up against a 49ers defense that is probably the best defense in the league. And Taylor Heineke, is he going to be the guy that's going to lead this offense to the promised land to get 25, 30 points against this 49ers defense? I don't believe that to be the case. And I don't think the Commanders defense is going to be able to hold up against that 49ers offense, despite Brock Purdy being there. So you tie all those factors together, I think there's a very good chance that the 49ers just absolutely run away with this game. I think this game could be over potentially by the third quarter where, the 49ers are up 2 or 3 possessions. And that's despite the fact that Chase Young is coming back this week for the Commanders. I just don't have faith that the Commanders have the requisite pieces to slow down the 49ers in any way, shape, or form. And I think when it's all said and done, I think the 49ers win this one by the score of, I'm going to say 31-14. I think this has a potential to be a 3-possession game. The 49ers continue their winning ways. And when it comes to Commanders, I think this takes a pretty significant hit in their playoff chances. I'm not saying they're dead in the water, but they got to play up to snuff to be competitive in this game. I just don't see that happening. I think the 49ers continue their winning ways and really improve their standing in the NFC as far as I see it.
There's really not much I can add, realistically. I mean, when you talk about the ineptitude of the Washington offense outside of Terry McLaurin and the occasional big run from Brian Robinson, I don't necessarily have a lot of faith in them to go out there and try to compete against the league's best defense. I mean, we're talking about Fred Warner, we're talking about Nick Bosa, and countless others that have just made play after play after play all season long. And despite losing 2 quarterbacks this season, this defense has carried the load for the majority of the second half of the season. You don't have to go out there and score 40 points on offense. You don't have to go out there and rush for 200 yards. But with the late midseason acquisition of Christian McCaffrey, we know that there is going to be a consistency at running back, and he is going to be able to shoulder the load for the majority of the game as long as he remains healthy. That's the pivotal part. With them being riddled with injuries on the defensive side, and now if you were to kind of like take a step back and say, well, Debo's hurt, Kittle was hurt. Trent Williams was hurt. Christian's been dealing with a couple of different minor injuries here and again. It's just like for them to continue to dominate the way that they have been, despite having all of this, just speaks volumes of the depth that this team has. Kyle Shanahan is tired of having the narrative of not being able to finish off the season, not being able to handle anything in terms of adversity. I mean, they had the whole Trey Lance situation, the whole argument with Jimmy Garoppolo maybe not coming back in this offseason, and now you're talking about your third string, Mr. Irrelevant draft pick being the quarterback that leads you to a postseason berth. They won the division already, and it's just a matter of what seed they're going to get. Now, I don't think that they are going to be able to capitalize and go get the number one seed. That would have to mean that Minnesota and Philadelphia lose out the rest of the year, and probably Dallas as well, since Dallas is just a few games behind Philly. But to kind of wrap up my point here, I don't think that Washington has anything to bring to the table when in comparison to the 49ers. I think that this is 100% going to be a rout. I think Taylor Heineke may even get benched if the 49ers continue to bring pressure like they have been all season. And if that's the case, Carson Wentz has been known to give up a lot of passes as well, a lot of turnovers, whether that be a fumble or interception. So the 49ers could walk away from this game with 3 or 4 turnovers between two quarterbacks or even just one. So again, I'm right alongside my partner. I got the 49ers moving up to 11-4 and just completely running through the rest of the conference by the end of the year.